For the past couple months, I've been on a little retro game spree. It started with me purchasing a Sega Saturn for cheap and snowballed into so much more. Now, here I am with the living room full of all this cool old crap. Maybe I should have got obsessed with Costco bins so I have a place to store all this stuff. Of all the things I purchased, I feel like the family computer, also known as the Famicom, has to be one of my favorites. It is so charming, weird looking, and full of so much historical value, but sadly, it's incomplete. You see, an add-on called the Disk System came out 3 years after it in 1986 that allowed the Famicom to play games off of floppy disks, opening a new world of possibilities. This is such a unique console, one that I've been obsessed with and practically dreamt about for over 2 decades, and yet here I am explaining its backstory and not complaining about the fact that it's taking up carpet space. What gives? Well, I was so focused on trying to get my hands on the base console that it kinda just slipped my mind. That's where our hero comes into play, JPFans. They casually slid into my DMs and gave me the opportunity to see how a proxy service like theirs can help complete my collection. The thing is, I never used a proxy service before. They always felt so intimidating to me that I just refused to try them out. I was hesitant, but I have friends who have actually used JPFans in the past, and they all had nothing but positive experiences. That gave me the confidence to go through with this, so if you guys happen to be watching, you're epic. To sum it all up, JPFans is basically a middleman that lets you easily buy from Japanese marketplaces like Mercari, Amazon Japan, Yahoo Auctions, and other such places. You buy through their site, then the sellers send it to the JPFans warehouse, where it is then repackaged along with any other items you may have bought into one or as few parcels as possible. This is how I was finally able to procure the dream machine that has lived in my mind for decades, as well as anything else I'd need for it to hit the ground running. We'll talk more about JPFans later in the video, such as my experience as well as my opinions, and how first-time users could get some really nice perks if they sign up via the link in the description. Alright, here's the box, and it is huge. So huge I have to change the camera angle. Sorry about that. Alright, I'm gonna cut this thing open like a fish and open it up so we could take a look inside, and good lord, look at all of that. Since I need all the space I can get, the box will be losing table privileges. First things first, we of course have the Famicom Disk System, the thing that we're here for. This isn't the first time I've held one in my hands, or even seen one in person, but knowing that this is my disk system, it feels like the first time. Q Foreigner. According to the listing, this is a professionally restored console, and it certainly looks like one. It's so clean. I got really lucky with that listing because these things are notorious for their fragility, with the most likely to break award going to the belt that runs the disk drive. It's tiny, thin, and not made to last 40 years, which, fun fact, the disk system actually turned 40 on February 21st of this year. Along with the belt, the rest of the internals were also tuned up and adjusted, along with being cleaned. You'd think that a console serviced by a professional would cost a small fortune, but that couldn't be farther from the truth. This Famicom Disk System cost $37. The cheapest one I could find on eBay was around $70 with shipping, and that's for an unserviced and untested unit. It could have been a dud, but this one right here, this ain't no dud. Next up, we have what else? A game for the Famicom Disk System. Most of the things in this package are Disk System games, spoiler alert, and this one is a fairly infamous one. Super Mario Bros. 2. The real one. Also, I didn't notice it on the listing when I purchased it, but this disc also has Super Mario Bros. 1 on the B side. It's common knowledge nowadays, but the original Mario 2 never came over to the US due to its presentation as well as its difficulty, with a reskin of a mostly unrelated game, Yume Kojo Doki Doki Panic, taking its place. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of the real Mario 2. I respect the focus on challenging level design, but it does feel a bit much at times. It also felt like a ROM hack more than a new game, more so than American Mario 2 since this looks almost exactly the same as Mario 1. Despite my reception to Mario 2, its historical merit is impossible to ignore, and getting a disk system without it would be a disservice. Who knows, maybe playing the game on actual hardware might make me like it more. While Mario 2 is one of the quintessential Disk System games, the next one is probably what is widely considered the Disk System game. Of course, that game is The Legend of Zelda. This game took advantage of everything the Disk System had to offer. The memory size of the discs made Zelda 1's open world possible, and their rewritability allowed you to save your progress in it. The Disk System version also took advantage of the console's extra sound channel to make the music sound more unique. Whether or not it sounds better is subjective. Personally, I say that the music sounds better because it makes me cooler. It's a legendary game, no pun intended, and despite eventually getting a cartridge release in 1994, its Japanese identity is forever linked to the Disk System. Another pun also not intended. That's why I had to get my hands on it, along with the console. I'm looking forward to playing this version someday and seeing what differences there are. Not really excited for the load times, but that's a part of the charm for this thing. On to our next item in the package, we have Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. Just kidding, this is actually Zelda 1 yet again. This was not intentional. What happened was, when I purchased this, I wasn't looking closely at the pictures on the listing. My eyes were just looking for that Zelda 2 art, which I saw on the manual. I bought the game, and then like a week later, I decided to look at the pictures that I got taken of the item. On JPFans, you can pay to have them assess your items, as well as to take pictures or a video of them just to make sure that everything's good. So I looked at these pictures and noticed the artwork for Zelda 1 in the last image. For a moment, I actually thought I got ripped off. I thought JPFans were pulling a fast one on me, so I looked at the listing just to see what was up, and sure enough, Zelda 1 staring me dead in the eyes. I have no clue why they did that. Maybe it's an older person who doesn't know or understand games, but yeah, here I am with 2 copies of Zelda 1. Mathematically, you could say that this is Zelda 2. I was really looking forward to this game. I have a huge soft spot for it, and the Japanese release has some differences that make it actually worth checking out. The music is different in some spots, sometimes making use of that extra sound channel. Some sound effects and sprites are different. The level up mechanic is totally changed. Oh well, that's a lesson I had to learn the hard way. Next time I shop on JPFans, I'm gonna have to be a lot more careful and diligent with the listings. On the bright side though, this disc of Zelda 1 actually works for me. The first one I talked about doesn't even load side A. Also, I got the Zelda 2 manual, and that's pretty freaking cool on its own. Can't say the same for modern games. Next up, and don't worry, it's not a third copy of Zelda 1, we have a game that I personally feel is the most defining and iconic game of the Disk System. That game is Nazo no Murasame-jo, which roughly translates to the mysterious Murasame Castle. This was released exclusively for the Disk System and never made available internationally until the 3DS Virtual Console. You assume the role of Takamaru, a samurai who has to fight through a bunch of castles and enemies in order to reveal the secret of Murasame Castle. Spoiler alert, it's aliens. Now, the gameplay may make you think I was lying about there being no third Zelda disc, but outside of the presentation, this plays nothing like Zelda. It is much more fast-paced, action-oriented, and challenging, requiring you to swiftly take out foes, dodge endless projectiles, and even hit them out of the air with your katana. Murasame Castle is a game that really fascinated me back then, probably more than the Disk System itself. While I did get it because of its role in Disk System history, being one of the titles released closely to launch, I just really wanted it for myself. I love the cover art. I just look at how weirdly colored that castle is, and Takamaru just standing there looking cool. I love the elusive status of the game. I love the gameplay. I think I'm in love with it. We might have to get engaged. Up next, we have something a bit more boring. This is VS Excite Bike. Just like this Zelda 1 copy, this game also doesn't work for me. But don't worry, it won't extinguish my spirit. Just my wallet.
Where are the bikes?
When Excite Bike originally released on Famicom and NES, it was a fun game, but it was a game lacking in content. The VS version, originally released for arcades then ported to the Disk System, added on to the original game by introducing new music, a 2-player versus mode, more gameplay mechanics, and also an improved track editor with a more convenient way to save custom tracks that you make. On the original Famicom version, you had to save your tracks using the Famicom data recorder, which wholly cumbersome and outdated. I still want it though. On VS, you just save. What a concept. Excite Bike is a fun game, but I wouldn't say that it's like at the top of the Disk System charts for me. I mainly bought this because of how much of an improvement it is compared to the NES version, and one of the times when a game is ported to the format and better for it. Next up, we got a third-party game finally. It's Castlevania 1. It also doesn't work. I really gotta pay attention to these damn listings. Yeah, this game was released for the Disk System before receiving a cartridge version in 1993, but this is the initial release. What makes the Disk System version special is that you can actually save your progress, which is a godsend for a soul-crushingly difficult game like this. Saving progress is like the Disk System's secret weapon. You got a game that's long or challenging, put it on Disk System and throw in a save feature. Boom, infinite money machine. I wasn't really into the Castlevania series until early in 2026 when I randomly decided to boot up the Anniversary Collection on Switch. I ended up abusing the save state feature on the Switch version of Castlevania 1, so I kind of wanted this one to beat it legitimately on actual hardware, and also save my progress if I need to go punch drywall and scream my lungs out for 3 hours. But unfortunately, since this copy is defective, I will be punching the drywall and screaming for that reason. I'm gonna pull you aside for a moment to be serious, and I just gotta say, even though I got 3 games that don't work properly or at all, it is not the fault of JPFans at all. Most of these games were put up with the explicit description that they are untested and that it is a risk for the buyer whether it will work or not. I'm a little mad that it doesn't work, but you know, them's the breaks. I can't really do anything about it. If there's anyone I should be mad about, it would have to be myself. All right, champ, sorry to get all serious on you for a moment. How about we get on back to the package now, shall we? Castlevania is unfortunately the last of the Disk System games, but not the last of the items I got in my order. I ended up throwing in a few Super Famicom games as well because I really enjoy playing the games on that console. Most of these are games that I loved as a kid and wanted to add to my collection to relive those old memories. First up is A Link to the Past, known as Triforce of the Gods for the Japanese version. Compared to the Zelda games on the Disk System, I'm not as familiar with A Link to the Past. Not to mention this game has a lot more text and is much more complex, so I may have to use Google Translate to understand what the hell's going on here. I managed to find a listing with all 3 Donkey Kong Country games together. Despite the games being loose, that is one hell of an absurd find. What's even more absurd is that it only cost $5.66 for the whole lot. That's less than the one copy of A Link to the Past, which cost me $6.29. Next up, I had to throw in Super Off-Road into my order. Those who follow me closely know that I love this game. Maybe a bit too much. It was one of the first games I actually streamed on my channel 5 years ago, and then I ended up streaming it again this year. And finally, we have the last item, which is a bundle of Star Fox and Darius Twin. Star Fox is something that I wanted to get due to the remake being announced and then released this same year. I'm more of a Star Fox 64 guy, but maybe I might enjoy the original if I play it on original hardware. As for Darius Twin, it is a childhood favorite and one that I used to play all the time with my brother. It's hard as hell, but I've gotten better at it over the years. When I beat it, I want to beat it on this copy. With those last 2 games, we come to the end of my order from JPFans. It was fun opening things up, but more importantly, how was my experience with using a proxy service for the first time? Well, pretty damn good. I have no clue why I was so scared before. The site itself was slightly confusing and sometimes awkwardly translated, but once I understood the layout, I was able to find what I needed. Being able to not only search through all these different marketplaces, but also fill my order with items from different ones was so intuitive. Some marketplaces have better deals on specific items, and being able to take advantage of that was a huge help. Most, if not all, my items were priced much lower than I would have seen them on either eBay or at my local book-off, such as the refurbished Disk System and that bundle of all 3 Donkey Kong Country games. Along with the item's price, there were also some additional fees like domestic shipping, which thankfully none of my items had, as well as service fees from both JPFans and the marketplaces, but thankfully, those were pretty low. JPFans tells me that they have the lowest service fees in the proxy service game, but since I never used another proxy service, I wouldn't know. Shipping costs were honestly not as bad as I was fearing. I knew it was going to be much higher than something like domestic shipping here in America, and it was. It ended up coming up to around $86 after a coupon, but the savings from my items far outweighed the higher shipping costs. And depending on your items, you might be able to take advantage of cheaper shipping options from Japan Post, like EMS or Small Packet. Unfortunately, I couldn't do that myself due to its contents, so I ended up having to rely on the more expensive UPS option. Shipping price will depend on what you order, of course, like the size and maybe the weight. So if you ever do any purchasing here, I do recommend you keep that in mind. Also, I had to pay an import fee of $32, which sucks, but that's just how this stuff works. And finally, the most surprising part about all of this, the time that it took for the package to arrive at my doorstep after they arrived at the JPFans warehouse was 5 days. That is by far the fastest I have ever gotten a package from Japan in recent memory. I didn't know JPFans has access to teleportation. While things were mostly smooth, nothing is ever perfect, and I did have some issues during my experience, such as a couple of items I bought that ended up randomly getting canceled. I did get my refund, but it was still strange since you never really know what kind of items may be canceled. I understand it's totally out of JPFans' control what sellers do, but it's still a disappointment. One of those canceled items was a Japanese Superbad Blu-ray, and I'm still miffed about that. Jeez. The names of listings are translated to English for easier searching, but sometimes mistranslations can slip in and, ironically, make it harder to find things. Due to this, I mainly searched using Japanese names of items, and that worked well for me. This doesn't really bother me too much since they do rely on auto-translation. You can't translate every single listing known to man on there, that'd be impossible, but it's something that I want to make known for potential users so that way they don't end up missing out on some listings. And lastly, and this is more of just a nitpick on my end, I don't know how to turn off some emails. I like receiving order updates, but I am not a fan of getting promotional emails like at all. A way to customize what emails I receive would be wonderful. Outside of all that, I really enjoyed my experience and am just surprised how much I liked it. I'm definitely going to make sure to use services like JPFans if I ever have the retro itch, whether or not it's sponsored. And that about wraps up everything for this video. I'm happy that I was able to share my first time using a proxy service, since I'm sure that there are many people out there that may be in the same boat like I was. And for them, I really hope that this video can help them out or guide them in some way. And I have to give another shout out and thanks to JPFans for reaching out for this collaboration. You guys helped me out a ton and made my dream a reality. If I could tell young me that he would someday own a Famicom Disk System, he would probably call me a liar and start screaming stranger danger, but I digress. If you wish to check out JPFans yourself, I highly recommend you sign up through the link in the video description. Doing so will net you $86 worth of shipping coupons, as well as a sweet coupon for 50% off items from Mercari. I ended up making use out of those coupons, so I want to make sure that you guys can too, because it is a huge help. Anyways, that's about it for this video. Thank you all so much. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and I hope that you guys have a great rest of your day. If you need me, I'm not going to be playing Disk System. I'm going to have to be cleaning up everything in this kitchen. You just look at all this stuff, this packaging and stuff.